Welcome everybody to the Bright Futures online artist discussion with featured artists Kelly Robinson, Latham Mack, Cody Lecoy, and Keith Kerrigan. My name is Ali Boubard and I'm an Anishinaabe from Saging First Nation. I'm the curator of the Bill Reid Gallery and the co-curator of Bright Futures, our current feature exhibition on view until January 14th, 2024. I just wanted to start off by acknowledging that the Bill Reid Gallery is situated on the unceded and ancestral territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples, and we're so grateful that we're able to do our work on their beautiful territories. Just some housekeeping things before we get started. So this session is being recorded and will be up on our social media pages afterwards for those who are able to attend tonight's event. But we do have live captioning available if you need, and we'll also be taking questions from the audience at the end. So please save your questions until then, and then you can put them into the chat. So Bright Futures opened up earlier this year in April. It brings together the innovative art of Bill Reid alongside new works by contemporary, emerging, and established Indigenous artists of the Northwest Coast. To celebrate the life of Bill Reid, 25 years after his passing, contributing artists were invited to ponder and critique the question, how is Bill Reid continuously inspiring contemporary Northwest Coast artists? Bright Futures is both a retrospective on how Northwest Coast art has evolved over the past 25 years and an invitation for the next generation of Indigenous artists to continue to create bright futures for Northwest Coast art. This exhibition features the work of 14 Indigenous artists from a variety of nations here in BC and in the Yukon. We would like to thank our supporters for the exhibition, our collections partner, SFU, the Chief Adansu James Hart Emerging Artist Program partner, RBC Foundation, Canada Council for the Arts, the Province of BC, DeMille Foundation, the City of Vancouver, and Rosedale on Robson. And tonight's artist discussion will be moderated by Beth Carter, our former curator at the Bill Reid Gallery, and also co-curator of Bright Futures. So I'll now pass it along to Beth to start our discussion.
Hi, everybody. As Alia said, I'm Beth Carter. I worked at the Bill Reid Gallery for many years and have recently left my full-time position, but I'm thrilled that I can continue to work on a project basis and as an associate curator at the gallery. And it's my real pleasure to be able to facilitate this chat this evening with 4 of the wonderful artists from the Bright Futures show. Alia and I co-curated this show. We were thinking of ways to acknowledge 25 years since Bill Reid passed, and also the growth and development of the Bill Reid Gallery of Northwest Coast Art, which was created in his name by friends and family after he passed away. So the gallery has been in existence 15 years this year, and I think we are constantly finding new and interesting ways to celebrate Bill Reid and his legacy, and with a special focus on contemporary Indigenous art from the Northwest Coast. Just before we get going, starting with our featured artists this evening, I did want to just name all the artists that are featured in the Bright Futures show. So we have Rebecca Baker-Grenier, Tamara Bell, Sherry Dick, Shoshana Green, Maynard Johnny Jr., Keith Kerrigan, Cody Lecoy, Latham Mack, Calvin Morberg, Bill Reid, Kelly Robinson, Natasha Seymour, Dustin Sheldon, Crystal Silverfox, and Yolanda Skelton. And I do invite you to come see the show, which is up until the middle of January in 2024. I would like to also acknowledge that Jordan Wilson really helped us out by sitting as a member of the selection committee for the artists. So we did send out a call for submissions and selected the 14 artists for inclusion in the show from that. So that's just a little bit of an intro. As Alia said, we were interested in really exploring why Bill Reid continues to have resonance in the world today, in the world of Northwest Coast art today. And all of the artists included in the show had very strong feelings and ideas around that. And I'm hoping that we can explore that a little bit tonight. It's also really interesting that we have 4 men artists on the panel this evening. Half the show is women artists, and I don't know how it quite worked out this way, but we're really looking forward to hearing from them. And I'm hoping that we'll have a second panel discussion in January, and you'll get to hear from some of the other artists as well. So first off, I would like to introduce or ask the four artists to introduce themselves and tell us a bit about their artistic practice. And I've got Kelly right in the middle of my screen, so I'm going to ask Kelly to go first, if you don't mind.
Hello, guys. My name is Kelly Robinson. I'm Newhope, Nuchanuch, Bellacoola, and Ahouset is where I'm from. I've been practicing in the art market for, I think, 14 years now, and I practice in all three mediums. There is new mediums coming out in the Northwest Coast market, but designing and painting, prints, jewelry, working with precious metals, and wood carving, which I believe is at the center of it all, and will continue to be, because there's just too much to learn. Yeah, that's more or less it. Yeah.
And
continuing. I'm always learning. I'll always be a student. There's too much to learn, especially from two nations where they're totally distinct styles. Sorry, go ahead, Beth.
No, I was just going to say that even though carving is maybe your main area in this exhibition, you have a beautiful bracelet, silver bracelet, that you created specially for the show. I'm going to move on and let everybody introduce themselves, and then we'll come back and talk in more detail about your works in the show. Keith, would you like to go next? Oh, you're muted, Keith.
Perfect. It's a perfect thing to do in a Zoom discussion. Sorry about that. Thanks for the introduction there, Beth. My name is Keith Kerrigan. I'm a member of the Haida Nation and of the Yagalanis clan. I've been practicing as a Haida artist for going back as early as 1980, where I took some training from some family members, and I've basically been family trained all the way through, and influenced by many other artists, including ones that we have with us today and many others that are in the exhibition. I'm quite honored to have been selected, to have had a piece of my work selected for this exhibition, as I think it was an important call that was made to pull something together to recognize the influence that Bill Reid's had on our country and all of us as individuals, as well as all our nations. I've been working full time as an artist for the last 10 years. My main focus is silver and gold, and I also do some painting and some wood carving. And much like what Kelly had said, there's something central or something special about wood. And I dream of the day where somebody comes to me and says, Keith, you don't need to do any more work to support yourself. I'm going to give you a salary, comfortable salary to live on, and I'm going to limit you to one particular medium. And if that ever happens, pardon me, when that happens, the medium that I'm going to select is wood, because there is so much to learn, and it has so many different bits and pieces to it. So anyway, I pat you on the back for that comment, Kelly. It is something that I wholeheartedly agree with. So last thing, I do mostly direct. I work mostly direct with my clients. I do commission work and I do direct marketing to my clients. So anyway, that's a little bit about me. Thanks very much for listening.
Thanks, Keith. Cody, would you like to go on?
Hi, everyone. My name is Cody Lecoy, and I'm an artist of Syilx, Lekwungen, and Squamish ancestry. I've been practicing for just over 10 years in primarily painting, which has allowed me to explore painting on canvas and mural work. And I've most recently moved into carving under the mentorship of Tom LaFortune. And I look forward to developing that more, as well as expanding on my practice, which has led me to view it as a holistic practice, as a practice that encompasses the mind, body, and spirit of the self, and to learn and explore my Indigenous background in ways that I can integrate it through art, and continue to learn all that I can in the expression of the culture and how that can be expressed through art. So in that way, I'm grateful to see art as a practice that like Kelly mentioned earlier before this talk started, as a spiritual practice to connect to your own spirit, and in the way of doing that, also connecting to your family and community. And I feel fortunate to be part of this panel today, to be amongst other artists that can share in their expression of what art means to them. And it's in these moments that you really connect in engaging in such a solitary endeavor. So these moments are special. So thanks for having me, and looking forward to tonight.
Great. And last but not least, Latham.
Yo, Smram. My name is Latham Mack. I come from the Newhalk Nation. On my father's side, I come from New Sculch, which is up valley. On my mother's side, I'm out in South Bendick. You go out into the ocean and take a boat ride for a couple hours. I've been growing up, and Bella Coola just inspired me my whole life. The artwork, the culture, the singing and the dancing. I started at a very young age doing the artwork. I carved my first mask with my grandfather when I was 13 years old. I've always had a passion for working with wood. I've always been drawn to wood for some reason. I've preferred painting on wood over canvas or paper right from the beginning. Just something deep inside me. It's always been a passion. I did some teaching at the SAMS School District 49 and summer programs throughout the years. And I got directed to the Frida Deasing School of Northwest Coast Art back in 2008. Graduated in 2010, did a 5-year apprenticeship under Dempsey Bob, and just been going full swing ever since, and still learning. There's so much to learn, you know. I'd just like to thank the Bill Reid Gallery for having me. It's an honor to be taking part in this exhibition with the other artists. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us tonight, and I look forward to the evening.
Thanks so much, Latham. I didn't realize that we would have 4 passionate carvers on the call, because in the work that you've actually presented in the show isn't all carving. So it's interesting to hear how that carving thread ties you all together. And I expect we'll hear more about that as we talk a bit more. So the next thing I really wanted to talk about was a bit how you felt connected to the theme of the exhibit. So as we mentioned, it's 25 years since Bill Reid passed away. And for this exhibition, we really were asking, we asked everybody to answer the question, how does Bill Reid's work continue to influence you and also contemporary Northwest Coast art being produced today? And I'm really interested to hear from you how you were personally inspired by Bill Reid. Bill Reid, for those on the call who aren't that familiar with Bill and his work, he was one of the best known Indigenous artists in the mid part of the 20th century. He was of Haida ancestry, and he became internationally known for his carving, his jewelry, and he was also, like all these artists that we have today, worked in a variety of different fields. So, but he did love working with wood as well. So let's start with somebody different this time. How about Cody? Would you be interested in trying to talk a little bit about how Bill inspires you, and also why do you think Bill is still important to talk about or still inspiring people today?
Yeah, thank you. I was deeply inspired by Bill in the movies and documentaries, interviews that I heard of him in talking about the process, and I was very captivated by his passion and enthusiasm for the artwork itself, and his commitment towards honing his craft and also expressing his own voice and identity in the culture and really innovating. I think the innovation is what really grabbed me in terms of how you can root yourself in tradition and really study the masters and those that came before you, but take it in your own voice to expand on that. And I really enjoyed hearing him talk about the form line and how he would have that creativity to push it and pull it and have that joy of just creating with the possibilities that are in front of you when you really know the visual language, which he spoke with such eloquency about. And when I looked at his work, having that idea that was the process behind it, I really fell in love with the animated figures and the spirit behind the work. And I really liked the intricacies that were present with how he was able to embody his vision through the masterwork of his hands, and to bring forward that tradition of carving and storytelling in his own unique voice. And it just really comes through, and that sort of passion is really contagious. So to see that on a worldwide stage, thanks to his commitment, and also on a national stage here in Canada, it really instills a lot of pride to be Indigenous, and for me encouraged my own exploration of my identity to be expressed through art. So for me personally, that's the catalyst that Bill Reid had within my life, is that impulse to create.
It's so interesting you say that, because of course Bill Reid, unfortunately, he grew up outside of his Haida culture, and it was only later in life, or in his 20s really, that he started to be able to really explore and learn more about Haida art and design. And he didn't have as many masters to turn to, and was really needing to go into museums and libraries and galleries to look at the old pieces and learn just vicariously through looking, without that mentorship part. And quite a few of you have mentioned the idea of mentorship, and that you've trained under master carvers, and you've really had that one-on-one training, which Bill didn't get in the same way. He did have some, but not in quite the same way. But still, he really seemed to instill that idea that you need to learn the roots and the traditions first before you can push it and change it. And I liked how you mentioned that. Did I capture what you said? Okay. Okay. Maybe Keith, as our Haida member this evening, maybe you could talk a little
I
bit.
would be pleased. I'd be pleased to go next. Thanks for that. The I guess the thing about growing up when I did, when Bill Reid had been laying the foundation to establish a rebirth of Pacific Northwest Coast art or Haida art, I had the ability to look at the work that he had done all the way along, and I would grab bits and pieces wherever I could because his work was so masterfully done. He had the ability to grasp and understand the art form, the form line design, the concepts in a way that I think is almost unparalleled. I say almost because there are some pretty darn good artists out there, but to have done it when he did, with the guidance of some surviving master carvers and a lot of it with just hard study that he had done, he was able to set an incredibly high bar for us all to aspire to. Technically, as a jeweler, I think technically as a wood carver, and design wise, I've always looked at his work for inspiration and for guidance. And it can be as simple as seeing how a line is engraved on a bracelet, or how a line is carved into a totem pole or a wood panel. And I remember hearing him speak one time where I didn't hear him speak, this was likely a recording, but him talking about how designs flow from one line and how they swell and shrink back, and the design, well executed, can be and should be very fluid. I've always thought, well, I guess in the last 20 years, I've thought that for work to be really good, we need to have context in which that work is executed or developed. So for me, the context is working for the clients that I work for, or sometimes just working for on a project that I need to do myself personally. But I guess my point is, good work needs to have a context, or can have a good can flow from having a good context. Great work can stand alone even when that context starts to fall away from it. And how can Bill continue to influence us today? Because what he did was great work, and each piece excuse me, whether we know the context in which that piece was created or not, we can look at it and we can truly appreciate the greatness of the work, and it stands alone as art that can be viewed alongside any other art found on this planet. So anyway, we owe a lot to him. I'm eternally grateful. I have in one of my sketchbooks a little design that he doodled one time when he came to speak at a class at UBC that I was taking, that Martine was teaching. And I was too embarrassed to go up and say, hey, Mr. Reid, I'm a Haida artist. I just sort of sat in the background. And he came along, he needed to show us how to design something. So he grabbed a piece of paper out of my book and he did some sketching in my book. And I've got that set aside in a special place. It's just a real nice thing to have, having been there to see him do that. But I'm sure he knew that there were two of us in the class that were Haida, but neither of us spoke up. So anyway, his influence is really broad, and it goes very deep through the artistic community. Thank you.
That's pretty special to have that. We worked on an exhibition a couple of years ago for Bill's 100th birthday, and I worked with Gwai Edenshaw as our guest curator, and we had a lot of talk around that discussion of the line, and the line, Bill Reid's use of the line, and how the line functions in Haida art. But we also talked a lot about how the line flows forward and continues on. And really, it was a great way to describe how Bill Reid's influence continues on into the next generations as well. Maybe Kelly, would you like to go next?
Sure. Yeah, I just had to unmute. Yeah, he's a great influence on I think on in the entire Northwest coast, of all artists of all nations. My personal inspiration, like the greatest inspiration that I get from Bill is his sculpture. There's nothing like, he really ties design with sculpture, and I believe all the old pieces, they're so in tune. It's almost like they're married together or something. And Bill really executed that properly. Nothing to take away from the market, but I believe a lot of the new markets too based off of form line and everything stiff and rigid. There's no actual sculpture to masks. Like his poles really inspire me, and his panels, he's really good with the depths, that he finds the real true depths mixed with design, how they're married together. It's really inspiring that way. I'm not too like all I've watched is short films, as Cody was saying. I watched short films on him, but his sculptures are like, there's nothing like it. And it's their pieces are gonna last, like they're gonna last a long time because of that. That's why the old pieces in the museums, that's why they're so classy. I love it when someone makes a design these days that could do a two-dimensional design and just make a classic for today. It's really difficult to do, and I believe Bill's achieved that in his time. Also, what inspires me of the old ones, like I could put a whole bunch on top there that really dug really deep to really find themselves, is Bill Reid and Dempsey Bob, Robert Davidson, Bo Dick. I believe they achieved so much because they really dove into themselves and finding true artistic intuitiveness in themselves, which today we have a lot of mentors. We have too many mentors. It's almost like we're too fascinated on the world around us and how I could make this and that in the market. But it's just getting back to the values of how strong our art is. And I believe that's what inspires me about Bill's work. It's a true sculpture. He's a real sculptor. At every angle, you could look at his pieces, and they really marry together with design.
Mm-hmm. Just when we were chatting before, you also mentioned that, so there's this idea of the pieces made for the market. There's the pieces that are made as art pieces. And then you were also mentioning that you're doing a lot for community these days. So sculpture and creation for community as well is a big part of the art production now, right?
Well, it's a whole different animal when you're carving for ceremony. When you're carving a mask to wear, you're carving a rattle for ceremony, for true purposes, for true value. It just rings a different bell when you're doing it. And totem poles as well. That's another thing that I give a lot of respect to Bill for, is that he could stretch, like he could do totem poles, and he could go right down to just the tiniest little, and he gets all the proportions right. Like, we're not talking just like head to shoulder to legs. He's mixing like hands and talons and feet and everything on it is like, it all complements each other, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what's really inspiring. In my eyes, I think he's one of the best sculptors out there.
Wow.
And he's broken the market open for us. Like, we got to give him so much respect for breaking open the market, helping us. Like, we get to make a living off of what we do. It's not even a job. It's something we love to do. And the better we get at it, the more we get to give back, which is it's just like my ancestors. It's about giving back, right?
Mm.
That's what this market has given us. And Bill's really broken that market open for all of us.
Keith, did you want to say something?
Oh, there was a point that Kelly made there about scaling design. And that is a huge challenge to take something and go from a small piece to a large full scale. The challenge of doing that is it's huge. And like he said, for what Bill did in those areas, it was again executed at such a high level. So, you know, I totally agree with you on that.
Mm. Latham, do you have some thoughts you'd like to share?
Yeah, Bill's an incredible artist. He's inspired so many artists from, you know, generations ahead of us, and he's still inspiring artists in our generation and inspiring artists, you know, the next generation behind us. You know, Bill, when I look at Bill's work, I think the individual artist, it's up to yourself to set your own standards in your work, you know, the quality of the finishing. And when I studied Bill's pieces, like, he set the bar so high. When you study his finishing, like, it's incredible. And his proportions and his forms, they look proper. You know, I couldn't imagine, you know, being in his shoes trying to learn it back then. Like, today we got, like we talked about, we got mentors that help us. You know, we got access to the internet. You know, we could go on the internet and we could go to the museums down in New York and Chicago, and we could study all our pieces, you know, just on the click of a button. Whereas back when he was studying them, you know, they had to go right there. And I think that's the best way to learn, though, is going to the museums and studying your ancestors' pieces. They're some of the best teachers you could get. And just the quality in his finishing, like, it just amazes me and it goes from right from wood to silver to bronze. You know, look at his bronze sculptures in the airport. Like, it's incredible, like, how he pieced all those together and the time he did it. You know, it's pretty remarkable. And this, just the mass production he did. Like, when you go to the Bill Reid Gallery, you see all his work, and it's quite the volume, and it's really inspiring.
Well, now I'd really love to, I think Alia just put up some connections of how to contact you and see some of your other work, but I'd love to look at the pieces that you have in the show. And, you know, I'm really inspired by each of the pieces that you presented really share stories and are about storytelling. So maybe as we look at your work, you could also talk a little bit about the story behind the piece, and also how does storytelling play a role in Northwest Coast art. I think we have a PowerPoint with some of the photos of your works on them. So Latham, because I keep ending with you, I'm going to make you go first this time. Alia, are you able to put up the PowerPoint? Or Amelia?
Yeah, just give me 1 second.
Okay. Latham, maybe you could start just talking a little bit about the beautiful piece that you included in the show. And
Yeah, I wanted to give back to my grandfather. You know, he's the one that laid the path for me, and so inspiring. He shared so much knowledge with me and my brothers, you know, right from harvesting salmon to hunting for our traditional foods and teaching me the art, the carving. I spent many hours carving with my grandfather down in the basement, and I wanted to give back to him. And so I carved this headdress called Flaflu. That's the name my grandfather, my late grandfather, carries the name Flaflu. He's a hereditary chief for the Mack family that come from New Sculch. And so I wanted to carve our family crest, put a grizzly bear on there. And on the chest represents my grandfather in the human form. I got the abalone when I was down in New Zealand. I took part in a carving workshop back in 2010. I picked up some of the abalone down there, and I really like the color of the abalone, so I used it on the headdress. And sea lion whiskers on the back side of it. I wanted to use all the traditional materials our ancestors used. And so I got the sea lion whiskers on the back come from Bella Coola, and then the ones that are on the headdress come from up north. I got them just outside a terrace from one of my friends that harvested the sea lions. The ermine. The only thing that's not traditional is I put rabbit fur going around. Our ancestors used swan. They used the swan fur, which went kind of around from the headdress. You can't harvest any swan, so I got the rabbit fur on there. But I wanted to go back and use as much material as my ancestors did, and studying all the old headdresses in the different museums and trying to get that proportions right and the depth. Gave it to my grandfather before he passed away, and he passed his chieftainship name down to my older brother, so he carries the name Flaflu for our family now, and this headdress will be used in ceremony. And it's an honor to have it in part of the exhibition.
The photo on the screen is showing the headdress in the case with Bill Reid mask, as well as a pole by another Haida, a 19th century carver as well. So I always love the beautiful blue painting on New Hulk carving as well.
Yeah, we always call it Bella Coola blue.
Yeah, it works beautifully with the abalone. I'm sorry that we don't have a closer up image to show people, but hopefully you can get a good sense of the three-dimensional quality of the piece. But at the same time, it's you've really carved it very, very thin, so it's light and easy to wear. It's not too heavy when you're wearing it.
Yeah, that was my goal, was to try to carve it and make it light. Kind of looks fragile when you hold it, but yet it's still strong. Alder, that's what I like with alder. Alder's really strong. It's a hard wood when it dries. It's really nice wood to work with. It's one of my favorite woods.
Good. Maybe we could look at Cody's piece too now. I think here's also another installation view of your work. Is that enough for you to be able to talk about the piece, Cody?
Yep. Yeah, that looks good. I based this piece on the $20 banknote and the spirit of Haida Gwaii that was featured on it. And I tried to get the canvas to the proportion of a $20 bill. And I picked this particular piece and inspiration because for me, it represented sort of an act of defiance in the history of Canada and the suppression of Native culture in the colonization of Indigenous peoples to not practice and express who they are. So for me, seeing this artwork on the banknote was sort of expression of, you know, saying we're still here, we're thriving and not suppressed. And to put it into a context of what was said during the times of assimilation and the quote by John A. MacDonald to kill the Indian and the child, I saw that as a very insidious approach and very much on the level of psychological warfare, in a sense, on the peoples to be stripped of their identity, so much so that their spirit is killed. And to know that that was a attitude in the formation of the country, and to see that the artwork that's being expressed now on the backs of Bill Reid and people that have come before us to keep that spirit alive, that's very much what the painting I sought to express. So it was really the collision of those two worldviews, one of control and another of liberation. So when I had the spirit of Haida Gwaii featured in the corner as a canoe moving through this space, it represents that perseverance of culture and that unity of moving together as one, and to express that culture, that spirit, that which can't be seen, and to express it through song, art, dance, and to really encapsulate that part of us that really can never be taken away, but was sought to be taken away. And I wanted to represent that within the painting. So it really becomes a view of two worldviews coming together, and I wanted the water and the ripples to sort of illustrate a breaking away from that containment. And when great artwork like Bill Reid's is produced and has that ripple effect through communities and touches individuals, that's like a contagion that becomes spread. So for me, focusing on that spirit part was integral to the piece, because that's what I get when I see his work, is the continuation of that spirit and the triumph of all the forces that were against it, really. So to see him not only continue the artwork but to push it as far as he did is extremely inspiring, and that's sort of the motivation behind the painting itself.
I every time I look at this painting, I see something new, and I think it's so unique how you use this sort of surrealist style, but you're also so embedded within Northwest Coast forms and shapes and forms. And I also like to, when I talk to people about the painting, I love pointing out how you're taking the Canada crest and basically literally poking holes in it. So you're, the crest shape is really getting has these cutout forms, is almost disintegrating into Coast Salish shapes and forms as they're floating away, and so much to see in this painting. I hope people can really come and visit it in person and see all the many details up close. It tells an amazing story, Cody. Thank you so much for creating it for the show.
Thank you.
How about Kelly? I got your bracelet shown on my, I don't think, do we have a picture of, I'm gonna just share my screen. Hold on, just like see, share screen. Oh, I've got to have my screen. I've got to have allowance to share the screen. Can you do that?
Maybe if Keith can go first, and then Kelly, I can grab your a
Okay.
photo of your bracelet.
Keith will go first, and then we'll get Kelly's bracelet. Oh, can you go back and show Keith's piece?
Yeah, just one.
So there are, looking at what I do as an artist over the years, through my, I love this term, through my artistic practice.
Mhm.
I can't talk like this, but I'll try to talk like this. Through my artistic practice, I see different types of work that I produce. And I think it's not necessarily different types of work. It's almost different levels of work. And the piece that I have in this exhibition is a sculpture, a three-dimensional sculpture of a raven in sterling silver. And the different levels of my work, and the other participants here today have sort of keyed on this a little bit. I've done work for years for sale. And I've done work for years that are just pieces that I want to do or need to do for myself. And then there's work that you can do for the community. And that's something that I've just really had a taste of in the last year, just in the last year, doing a piece for a family member for their ashes when they passed away. And that was an incredibly moving piece for me to do. And it felt like it was in a level where it was almost like a private, piece that I didn't want to share with anybody. And it never made it. There's never been pictures of it posted anywhere online because it just doesn't feel right to me. But this raven, it's inspired by a couple of pieces that I've seen of Bill's, or many pieces that I've seen of Bill's over the years. One being a small ivory pendant that was carved probably back in the 1960s, I think it was. And when I was in university, I did a lot lesser quality piece than what you see right here, as I tried to copy this piece by Bill. I didn't have the understanding of the depth of how to execute a project like that. But yeah, anyway, this piece was something that I had seen when I found this little piece of driftwood, not the one that you see on this particular raven here, but an earlier version of this. I found one when I was on Haida Gwaii, and I immediately saw this raven that needed to be there. So it was a piece that was done just because I felt like it needed to be done for me. And the thing that's always intrigued me and has intrigued my wife is that when I'm doing a piece like that, people feel that. The people as the consumers, or the people who just enjoy the art, they can really feel when something was done. I guess the way to say it is from the heart, because it's just something that I'm executing because I really need to do it. And I don't understand how that happens. I don't understand how people can feel the difference between that and a piece that I make for sale, as the other example. But that's what this was. And I was really pleased when this piece was allowed to be included as something to be submitted for the exhibition, and that it was accepted. It And I did say when I filled out the application form or the submission form for this exhibition, when they're asking for my words about how Bill Reid influenced me and how he influences artists, I was cocky enough to say, I don't think you need to ask an artist how they've been influenced by somebody. I think you just need to look at their work and you can see how they've been influenced. And that's the kind of thing where I like to think that we can see a little bit, or I can see a little bit, or I'm executing a little bit of and showing how Bill has affected his work has affected what I do. So anyway, enough of that. Thanks.
I don't, it's true, you know, we shouldn't need so much words around the pieces because they do speak for themselves. We, you know, us museum curators like you to explain what you're also showing. Sorry about that. I'm going to try sharing my screen. I've got here, can you see?
Oh yeah, I can see that.
Now there's a closer up version of Keith's beautiful raven. It's just this lovely little miniature solid silver raven sitting on a driftwood branch, and it just has that some of the same personality and character that we see in Bill Reid's beautiful raven in the first men's sculpture that's also in the gallery. And then I'm trying to find my other sorry.
While you're looking, I honestly couldn't believe that it was so special to see that shared with all the work of the other artists and at the gallery. It was pretty amazing to see that show.
Okay,
that
and
exhibition.
then it's you're seeing my messy screen. Sorry, I'm just finding now we get Kelly's piece. And can you see that, Kelly? Can everybody see your piece? Is it shared?
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so Kelly, finally you get to talk because we found your image. Sorry it took so long.
We had to let Keith butt ahead of me. Just kidding. Yeah, what would you like me to?
Yes, I'd like you to proceed. Or Keith, are you done? I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
Oh yeah, no, I'm done. That's and this piece is absolutely amazing. So
This piece is it's a history, it's a story piece of New Hulk, Bella Coola style, New Hulk style. I just, the reason I did it when I got asked to participate, I applied to be a part of this show, and when I got accepted, I thought, hey, I better do something new. I guess it's somewhat new and something inspiring by Bill, which I do my best work when of who I am, which is New Hulk. I grew up in Bella Coola. I'm half Newtronic as well, which I'm in Port Alberni now. I reside in Port Alberni, and I'm slowly learning Newtronic art, which is very exciting. It's a whole new way of, it's just a really rich culture as well. But this piece is it's a Smayusta piece. It's a story from the beginning of time with New Hulk people. And I just wanted to capture the true New Hulk style of the eye, the faces, and most of all, it's one of my teachers, Tim Paul, always when I'm around him, he's first of all, he's the most inspiring storyteller I've ever been around. Tim Paul from Heshquit, he's Newtronic. He really pushes me to find who I am, my true style, what me and Cody were talking about earlier is finding that spirit, finding who we really are. Where when you look at the art, there's no denying it. You can't deny the art. And this goes for every artist. It's not just the artists who are up above and achieved a lot of these different things in our market. It's anyone who practices the art is, I believe, is chosen to do the art from our people's spiritual outlook on life. Yeah, that's more or less it. It's just I just decided to do it. It's done in 1 point. The gauge is 1.3. It's a little thicker. It's a little larger. And I don't know if you have any more photos of the picture.
I might have, I do have, let's see if these are different angles. No, that's the same angle here.
Yeah, that's fine, Beth. Don't
Yeah.
worry about it.
I think
It's,
we were trying to take a picture with the main face there. Yeah.
Yeah, that Smayusta in Newhalk is it's a chiefly what we call chiefs, but we call it Staldumk in Newhalk, and it's a chiefly story. It comes from a chief's family, and there is rights to song, dance, you name it, hunting grounds, fishing grounds. That's what this story is. It's what my uncle Alvin always told me is the most important thing we could ever have in our from where we're from on the Northwest Coast is our story. The reason being is that value. What I just said is the river sources, the ocean sources, the hunting grounds, the berry picking grounds. Like those are true value in life of what nourishes a body, what puts spirit in us, gives us creation, which all four of us here have. We're creators, and we were given this, and then it's just like anything else. It's our job to give back, right? Yeah, that's more or less what this bracelet is.
Well, you've all created such gorgeous pieces for inclusion in the show. We can't thank you enough for sharing them with us. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we're going a little over time, but we started about 10 minutes late. I hope that's okay with people. I really we're coming down kind of to the end. I am the exhibition is called Bright Futures. And we were inspired by a quote of Bill Reid's that said that when he was talking about traditional Northwest Coast art, that these were objects of bright pride to be admired in the newness of their crisply carved lines, the powerful flow of sure, elegant curves and recesses, yes, and in the brightness of fresh paint. They told the people of the completeness of their culture, the continuing lineages of the great families, their closeness to the magic world of universal myth and legend. And so, you know, when Bill was talking about this, he was really trying to talk about how these were not, you remember he was looking at things in museum collections, and that he still saw how alive they were and how important they were to the people of the Northwest Coast. So I'm wondering if I have two last questions, and maybe you can answer them together. Is there a bright future for Northwest Coast art today? And if you were to be talking to a young artist, what advice would you give to a young artist trying to get into the field today? Maybe we can go back to Latham.
Yeah, there's great opportunities for artists today. You know, you can reach out to, like we talked about before, mentors. There's schools you could apply to. You know, the Frida Deasing School of Northwest Coast Art opens a lot of doors. There's a lot of grants out there. The YVR Art Foundation Scholarship Award. You know, they got traveling grants now to go down to museums. You know, I've been a recipient to the Burke Museum traveling grant. Went down there with my mentor, got to study my ancestors' work down there. UBC Museum of Anthropology has a grant artists can apply to go down there. And the biggest thing I would say is get a mentor. Why reinvent the wheel when the wheel's already been invented? A mentor could really get you going. I worked with a few mentors and just gained so much knowledge. That's I believe that's when you learn the most. And giving back and teaching. Like I love teaching. I go back home and I teach whenever I can. Participate in workshops. I'm just wrapping up a workshop here in Kamloops as well, working with some youth in some schools. We did some feast bowls. And yeah, I would just say do your homework and study the old pieces and dig deep into your culture. Find out where you're from, who your family is, what ties they have. And like I said before, the best teachers are your ancestors' work that are in the museums. Go and study those. That's when you're really going to start learning. My grandfather really stressed studying the old Newfolk masks. I've been studying them since I was a kid, and dancing. They go hand in hand, dancing in traditional ceremonies, and just sharing your knowledge. That's when you truly grow, is when you share.
Great words. How about you, Kelly? Oh, you're on mute.
Was it the advice I'd give to younger artists?
Yes, and do you think there's a bright future for Northwest Coast art?
Yeah. There's a lot of promise out there today in the market. There's just different avenues, but I think what I'd like to give to them is just know your story and where you're from. Really know your story. Really find an understanding in your village, and what's inspiring me now is to really try to learn my language. I believe that's a big missing part in my what I'm trying to, like, when I'm trying to get to the next level. But yeah, there's a lot of promise, and what advice I'd give them is just really study the top artists in the market, why they're there, what similarities they have. If you really study the art properly, you'll see that a lot of the top artists have a lot of the same shapes, not the same shapes, but the turns. It's the turns in design that are so they could turn into different things, and everything could just come together. You look at all the top artists; they study the old stuff, is what they do. But most of all is just know your story, know where you're from, because that's your greatest. I believe that's the greatest you'll ever be, is knowing who you are.
Thank you. Keith?
Okay, thank you. Is there a bright future? I absolutely think there is a bright future. And part of that relates to things that Kelly and Latham have both said. We can look, or pardon me, maybe not what you said, but what I heard. I see the possibility. I see so many great young artists out there, and we can't help but influence each other by work that we do. And it's because of that we can build strength and we can gain momentum. And that is going to continue to bolster Northwest Coast art, and it's going to continue to allow us to push the boundaries on the art form and allow more room for artists to find themselves a place in this world, in this art world. For a young artist, I would say try something new. Let's find something that makes you uncomfortable. Let's push yourself so that when you do that and you start to work through that discomfort, you're going to emerge as a different person. You're going to grow, and you will do that personally. You will also do that as an artist, and those, I think, are different parts of us. One thing that I was told for many years by one of my mentors was that you take a moment when you finish a piece to look at it and think one of two things: what would I do better next time, or what would I do different next time? And I think if we do that, instead of always looking at what other people do and comparing ourselves to them, if we compare ourselves to us and our work that we do today, as long as we push forward with one baby step with each project that we're working on, then we're moving forward and we're improving. And that is where we start to grow. And that's where I think the bright future of the art form exists, is within the possibility for each and every one of us to grow. So
Neat. Great.
there you
Thanks.
are. Yeah.
And Cody, you're good at pushing the boundaries of oh, you're mute still.
Hi there.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can hear you.
I definitely resonated with what Keith said there about following your own voice and finding that drive within yourself to get beyond each baby step and really become really familiar with your own drive and what pushes you forward. And in relation to the advice for younger artists, my advice would be to really dive into the process and to gain the tools, gain the skills, gain the mentorship that you want to receive, but really dive into the process of creating itself. And I know there's a lot of sort of hurdles, or also kind of mental obstacles that you have to get beyond when you're really starting out, is to kind of be focused on the end product when you're on step one, and really concerned about that finished kind of look to things, when the real joy and exploration and gifts that you can receive from creating itself becomes that unique voice to yourself. So I would say let go of that intention of creating this finished piece and having that deep meaning, but rather find meaning in your own creation and explore, try different mediums, try different styles, push yourself and get beyond that mental idea of what you're creating before you do it. And in relation to the bright futures part, I do see bright future, because I can only speak to my experience. And I had a friend once look at a piece of art I did, and he said, there's medicine in there, in a piece of work. And he was looking at the artwork, and he said, I see it, but it contains medicine. And I never looked at art that way. But if you can come with that approach and find medicine in art, find it in culture, find it in song, that in relation to brightness, that brings the light to the dark. And for me, art as a healing tool has that capacity. So for me, it has served that purpose within my life, and I would say it has a bright future for others that approach it in that way and really connect to that aspect that the art has, and that what our ancestors left to us in forms of medicine and good energy.
That's a beautiful way for us to wrap up that question. Thank you so much. We have a couple of questions in the chat, and that we're a few minutes over time. I hope people are okay to stay on for just a couple more minutes. One of Samara is asking if she wonders if you would mind if she quotes some of what you said for one of her Indigenous Studies class. We are recording it, of course, but any concerns there from anybody? Okay.
I have no concerns on that. I think if you're able to glean something useful from what we shared today, I'm pleased. I'm really happy for that.
Great, thank you. And Carolyn asks, in the talk of form, line, scale, and proportion being internalized and then expressed in art, emerges the artist's heartbeat. Is it hard to let go of the pieces, not the ones created for clients, but the ones that carry your heart? Anybody want to answer?
I think that was that was a point that I brought up. So no, I don't feel the difficulty in that, because I had a client a few years ago ask me specifically about a bracelet that I had made that noted the passing of one of my mother's sisters. And she felt that it was too special a piece to leave my family and to leave my possession. And I said to her, I made this as a part of my healing and an acknowledgement of the importance of my auntie in my life. And just the process of making it allowed me to move forward. And I didn't feel the need to possess it, because the creation of that work, while it had my heart in it, it served its purpose for me, and I was okay with letting it go.
Nice. Anybody else want to add to that at all?
Some pieces I have a hard time letting them go. I had one piece that was so strong, and the energy just felt just so alive. I really wanted to keep it, and I wanted to use it in traditional ceremonies. But we got bills to cover as artists as well, so I had to let it go. I had one piece, I really wish I kept it, but some of them they find their own homes, and as an artist, that's what kind of goes along with it, is they're going to find their own homes. That's one piece that I really was connected to, and I just felt its energy, and I did have a hard time letting that one go. I really would have loved to see it in the ceremonies. Hopefully one day maybe the collector will bring it to Bella Coola and we can both watch it on the dance floor.
Maybe it will come back to you someday.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Anything else that is that we've all done enough talking tonight. I can't thank you enough for sharing all your wonderful stories. A couple of people have also thanked you in the chat just for your generosity and wisdom, and for coming to this evening. And it's really been wonderful to talk with you, and thank you for participating in the show. And I look forward to having you come and visit the gallery again sometime soon. And as I said, the exhibition continues until January 14th. So if you have family coming through Vancouver over the holiday season or in the next couple of months, you do have time to still come and see this wonderful exhibition. And we hope you'll stop by. Thank you, Freddie Flames. Somebody's saying, and thanks for sharing. A few people have said so. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you all very much. A real inspiration. Thank you.
Thank you for having me today, you guys.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your evening. Enjoy.
And thanks to everybody who listened in. It's great that you would take part of your evening to participate in this and listen to what we had to say. So that's you're a big part of this.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Beth.
Okay, you're welcome. Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Good night,
Bye.
guys.